Public Service Commission in Pretoria has just briefed the media on its quarterly bulletin, giving us some feedback on the work that it has been doing, the complaints it has received, issues of financial mismanagement, some grievances that have come from the public or also from that is public administration staff themselves. And at this time, I am joined by the commissioner who gave us the presentation, that is Mike Seloane. Thank you very much, Commissioner. Just take us briefly through this report. What period were you looking at? And let's just talk about the overall number of grievances that were handled by the Commission.
Good morning, and good morning to the listeners or the viewers. The Public Service Commission on quarterly basis releases a quarterly bulletin to look at the environment within the public service in the form of grievances, complaints, financial disclosure, financial misconduct, and a number of other indicators that we may identify from time to time. So with respect to grievances, we have to indicate to the public that the grievances that are handled from the Public Service Commission is an indicator that they have not been successfully dealt with within the department, because if a person is aggrieved in a department, that person must lodge that grievance with the supervisor. Okay,
just perhaps maybe to bring our viewers into context here, the figures that you presented is that between April to September 2018, you handled about 349 grievances that were referred to the Commission, and they came from, where did these grievances come from?
Yeah, the grievances come from respective departments, because grievance management, it's a task or a function of the accounting officers and the executive authorities, ministers and MECs in the department. So if the grievances, the number that we are talking to, the 349, is grievances which were not successfully dealt with within the departments, so they are escalated to the Public Service Commission. So we can say we are almost like an appeal of some sort. So
these grievances are coming from staff that work in the public sector?
Exactly, they come from staff from the departments.
All right, so you received these 349 grievances. Then can you just tell us what do they range from? What are the issues that some of the public service employees are raising that feel that they are not being handled internally?
Most of the grievances that come from the public service, of those 359, about 55% relates to unfair treatment and salary-related problems. So unfair treatment can be things like bullying within the departments. It can be sexual harassment or just intimidation by supervisors, whatever. So those are some of the grievances. And salary-related problems, you may find that the person was in an acting position for some time, and then he was not paid that acting allowance, or sometimes they've deducted more money for medical aid than necessary.
And issues of irregular appointments, do they land up on your desk as well?
Irregular appointments in most cases come in the form of complaints, so that somebody has realized that he or she fit the position. He or she applied, interviewed, but not taken, and somebody with less qualification has been taken. So that person has a right to raise a complaint with the Public Service Commission. It doesn't come through grievance procedure.
All right, and then they raise the concerns that perhaps they were fairly disadvantaged for a certain position. Do you then have the powers to tell the department, reverse that the contract or whoever else that you've appointed instead of a more suitably qualified person?
One of the powers of the Commission with respect to dismissals, appointments, recruitment, etc., is that we can direct the executive authority, ministers or MECs or premiers, to reverse the appointment. But the reversal of the appointment must also take due process. So it can, because there's been a contract of employment, so that contract needs to be nullified when we have made that finding, and it can be nullified in court. So when we say reverse, they must go to court and reverse that.
So that means then PSC is not just you don't just give recommendations, but you are saying that you have some teeth in the sense that you can actually give a direct instruction.
Yes, we recommend, we advise, but at the same time we can direct. And that means that is a binding action which the executive authority or the accounting officer must implement.
And do they implement, you may not have the numbers, but just obviously someone who works in this space who also experienced, like, do departments actually take your recommendations or your directives seriously?
Yeah. Majority of recommendations and even directions have been implemented. I know of cases, because I'm operating in particular in Gauteng, a number of cases which came up, and then through recommendation, even before we made directions, they were implemented. So nationally, they are implemented, generally.
All right, let's actually now bring in Commissioner Celine Nkosi, because you don't only deal with issues from employees of government, but also the public can also reach you, particularly through the anti-corruption line that you are managing as a PSC. Just talk to us about this anti-corruption line and some of its successes, if there are any at all.
From the calls that were received by the hotline and sent to departments, from the investigations conducted by departments, 1,740 officials have been dismissed from employment in the public service. 140 officials were demoted, and 395 officials, criminal charges were opened against those officials, of which makes us happy because it serves as a deterrent. When other officials see that when you commit acts of corruption, you are going to be found and you are going to be charged, criminally charged.
All right, so there have been some successes since its inception. Now, let's talk about who are the biggest offenders. I mean, the report that you today that came out puts SASSA at the forefront of some of these allegations that are seemingly coming through from the public. I don't know if maybe Commissioner or you also want to jump in, but just who are the biggest offenders?
With regard to SASSA, is the public there? You know that whenever people, because of unemployment and sometimes because of greed, when they see an opportunity where they can get money, then they use that. With SASSA, you find out a person will say he's having kids, whereas he does not have or she does not have kids. So having applied for the social grant. Then some will say they are disabled, whereas they are not disabled. They will went to doctors and forge some of the documents. Then they will say they are disabled so that they can receive the disability grant. But I'm happy that SASSA has got an effective system of which these people are found out, and the payments, you find that the social grant payment, it stopped.
All right, well, thank you very much. That's Commissioner Nkosi, just giving us a breakdown of some of the successes they've had with the anti-corruption line that is managed by the Public Service Commission.